Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike. Mike joining us from the cell phone today, so his at ratio may be a little bit different. But some
I'm
stuff
I'm
broke over the
I'm,
last
I'm
couple days.
vertical. I'm not horizontal anymore.
No, I mean we felt we had to get on and record because Marvel, I think, is having a really rough start to 2025, and it's a lot of
Oh boy.
self-inflicted wounds. We have seen already the Gwen Stacy resurrection of Mary Jane as Venom, which is an interesting direction. There has been issues with the X-Men line, and we're gonna kind of set this up and talk a little bit about in the next couple of videos, some things they've done with X-Men as far as Charles Xavier and just some things that they're doing that don't seem great right now. But perhaps the most contentious character with Marvel right now is Spider-Man. And it's so weird
Yep.
because you have one book in Ultimate Spider-Man that is dominating in sales, that is doing really, really well. And then you have the flagship title, the most important comic book at Marvel, maybe the most important comic book on the market, an Amazing Spider-Man. It is now not even the highest selling Spider-Man book. It has a lot of fan dissatisfaction. You have Zeb Wells did a run that it has its fans, but was very, very poorly received. And a huge piece of that run was they decided, because Nick Spencer did about a 4 year story of trying to rebuild Peter and MJ's relationship. Peter looked like he was going to repropose. And then, of course, in classic Marvel fashion, they did 6 months later and
The
told you,
rug out from under you.
pulled the rug out from under you. They do this with Peter and MJ all the time. They decided it would be better to have Peter or MJ cheat on Peter, and Peter basically just become friends with the guy, and then MJ become Venom. So this has obviously
Crazy.
dissatisfied a lot of fans. And one of the things we're going to talk about, Tom Brevoort, he is the X-Men editor, but he does a Substack letter. And I'll say I appreciate his candor in there. He was the guy who kind of broke the thing of, hey, we don't really make comic books for comic book fans anymore. We make them as an IP form. But he responds to letters in there, and in one of them, the guy, someone a fan of Spider-Man, just flat out asked, like, "Why won't you get these two married again? You don't seem to be doing a lot with the character." And he gives an answer talking about how, hey, things have happened with Spider-Man. Doc Ock took over his body, and he kind of recounts all these bad events that fans haven't liked, like its progress. But he basically caps it at the end. But as always, if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. Just go buy Ultimate Spider-Man, but you don't have to buy Amazing Spider-Man, which is very weird for a company that is a consumer-based company that would need to sell theoretically comic books to have someone in a position at Marvel tell people, "Hey, man, you don't like it, don't buy it." We wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think some of the things that we see, there's a lot of contention in comic books now, and there has always been anger from fans and anger from, but we have had increased contact points through Substack letters, social media, whatever it may be, between writers and fans. And I think there is a lot more negative coverage because, me and Mike even have a microphone to get on and express opinions, right? But we've seen negativity increase. We have seen contention between sides increase. But we now, I mean, this is the second or third time a creative's really kind of come out and been like, hey, man, you don't like it, don't buy it, which is an insane stand to make. Even if you feel like that's the case, it's an insane stand to make. Telling people who are especially you're telling a guy writing your company about comic books. So clearly a guy who's passionate about comic books. Hey, man, don't like it, don't buy it. Um, Mike, what do you think about his statement? What do you think about what this says about where the comic book industry is? Do you think it's an overreaction to get mad about this kind of thing? Like, where are you at on this?
I don't know this guy. I don't know where he came from, but if it feels like more and more the people working in comics have less and less background in comics. So maybe if you're this guy and you've come to terms with the fact that this is just a IP idea farm and it's being propped up by Disney billions, and they don't care if they sell two comic books or 250,000 comics.
Mhm.
a really sad place to be because where are you going to get the great ideas? The great ideas come from people that love comics and have spent their whole life trying to get into the big two and make their splash and do something with these iconic characters that they've always wanted to do. For many, for decades, it was a dream job to
Hmm.
get into this little tiny corner industry that does these goofy stories of men and women running around in tights, fighting bad guys.
Yeah.
It turned out, 25 years ago that you could turn these into $1 billion. And I think it just went to the corporate heads. So I feel sad for comic books that, on the one hand, you know, if it doesn't matter how many comic books you sell, we're in big, big trouble. The
Hmm.
idea farm is going to go down the toilet because you're going to hire advertisers and pitchmen to create these characters. They're not going to have any gravitas. They're going to be chasing fads and you know pathetic movies and Christmas specials and stuff. It's just, and the comics are just going to dry up and blow away. Meanwhile, the indies are pumping out great stuff. And oh, by the way, if Marvel's resolved to do it this way, boy, does DC have a big chance to get one up. And
Yeah.
so, because I do feel I've kind of lost faith in Marvel completely, but I do feel there are some at DC that are really trying and are putting out good stuff. The indies are certainly putting out great stuff, and it's like if you're just going to run the big two into IP farms and run them into the ground, you're going to lose your industry to make your
Hmm.
$1 billion. And like I've always said, you've got to invest in that cottage industry in order for it to pay off. For every 100 bad ideas and bad runs, there's a good run that gets picked up and greenlit as a movie and you make $1 billion. But if you let it dry up and let these yahoos just put out, whatever they want, if it's coming from top down and no, we need, Venom because, Marvel wants to work on another thing with Sony. So let's get, Mary Jane to be Venom. I don't know. It
Yeah.
just seems like these ideas are coming way out of left field. But I'm telling you, your IP farm is going to dry up into a dust bowl, and
If you keep doing this.
you're going to be putting out crud. And meanwhile, the indies are going to be getting the TV series on Netflix and multi-million-dollar movie deals for Rook or whatever.
No, I mean we've seen
You know,
stuff like Invincible, The Boys have grown. The Walking Dead was an indie comic that turned into a huge TV show. I mean, it's not that comic books are dying in terms of their ability to it's that it's the big two, and it's there's a huge issue with Marvel right now. And like you said, I
and
think the
the sad thing is the fans are telling you what they want.
well,
You
and
could
there's
sell a million copies if you kind of went back to formula again.
there's a
And
disingenuous thing from Marvel right now, and here's what I this there was a lot of that occurred to me with this, but first and foremost, where I find I don't like when people deal in bad faith on things. And Tom Brevoort's argument here and Marvel's argument is all in bad faith with me when it comes to Spider-Man. If you truly didn't want him with Mary Jane at all, then drop her from the book, remove her from Spider-Man. Don't drag her in. Don't every couple years dangle the fish bait in front of fans. Hey, oh, they might get married. If you're really done, if you're committed to this, to don't like it, don't buy it, get rid of her. Have her marry someone else. Leave the book. Go away. Don't keep putting it in there. You use this as a way to manipulate fans. So when you do some sort of thing of, hey man, if you got a problem with it, don't buy it. That's bad faith. You
Yeah.
use this. Quit putting MJ on Spider-Man covers. Quit having MJ's relationship with Peter. Quit having these little one-off issues where they think about getting. Stop. If you're really committed to this and you want to be all big and bold and hey man, you don't like it, don't buy it, then okay, be that. Go do what you want to do. At the same time, I don't know why you'd be so stupid in how you handle it. And look, one of the things is Marvel is in a creative business, yes, but you are also in a customer focused business. And so one of the things is it doesn't take a lot of tact or anything to see a letter like that or something and go, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to respond to it. Or two, go, you know what? I will respond to it. But what I can say in the end is, hey, look, we're sorry. It's not going the way that you wanted. We feel we've done some really good work and we have some great work upcoming. And so I do think if you give us some time, you'll really enjoy what we have cooked up for Peter Parker in the
Yeah.
future. It's
Hang
that
in
easy.
there with us. Fans, hang in there.
We think we can deliver better storytelling. And whether
Yeah.
that's crap or not, it doesn't take
It's
tact.
a,
It takes anybody who's ever been in any kind of sales business whatsoever. You and I both worked in corporate. If I had a person on the sales floor that worked for me, you know what? You don't like my sales pitch, don't buy it. And hung up on the customer and be like, you don't have a job tomorrow. Like, sorry, that's not what you do.
yeah.
And I think there is
Yeah.
a there's an element missing from Marvel, and I think DC, to their credit, with this All In initiative, whether you like it or love it or hate it or what they're doing, I can't say they're not trying.
Yeah.
They Jeremy Adams has been a crowd pleaser, so let's put him on more books. We want people want fresh continuity points. Let's get absolute universe. We're going to try to put what we can approximate as great talent on those. We're going to get well received folks. We're going to keep the main continuity for fans who like that, but we're going to try something different over there. Like we're going to bring Jeff Loeb back. We're going to bring Jim Lee back. We're DC's trying. It may not work, but they're trying.
You, you
Even on
gotta
the
you
movie
gotta
front. Go ahead,
you
Mike.
gotta you gotta water the garden. If you
Well,
want your
even on a movie
idea,
front.
if this is an idea farm, you gotta water the garden. You
Well,
can't
and
just throw dirt in a box and expect to have, tomatoes.
Well, and the thing is, again, where I give DC some credit is like, look, I think they realize, hey man, our movie universe is broke. Now it could suck, it could be bad. This James Gunn Superman, but they tried, and at
Yeah.
least Marvel, the MCU. I mean, they basically told fans, hey man, we're not interested in what you care about anymore. Like we'll tell you what you're interested in. You had directors like Taika Waititi come out with Thor, and Marvel never stopped him when he'd do interviews. No, I'll tell you what canon is. I'll tell you what you want. And then we
Yeah.
made Thor Love and Thunder, and yeah, he wasn't going to tell us what we wanted based on the box office returns. And we've seen this with comic books more and more. And there's a huge difference to me between the absolute universe that DC is doing and the ultimate universe that Marvel's doing, in that the absolute universe is just a different Batman. It's a different beast. It's a different story. Its entire point is to be different. Ultimate Spider-Man is basically them going, yeah, let's just give them the MJ and Peter books that pretty much everybody. And you are seeing it work. And the thing
Yeah.
is that Amazing Spider-Man is in a place where it's losing to another book. And I know right now, Absolute Batman was outselling the main Batman title. One, that's part of it being issue one, issue two, issue
Yeah.
three. Ultimate Spider-Man's 15 issues in now. This is a year plus, and this book is still beating your flagship title. And so I think the biggest thing with Marvel is you guys keep telling people you don't want to give them what they want, but then you keep having to make decisions that show that you don't know what you're doing either. And that you'll greenlight
It, it may
MJ
be
Venom. Like,
it,
what are you doing?
it may be a bit of the old, all that you're seeing in, the flagship title, like you said, Spider-Man and all these books, all that you're seeing in these books was created a year ago, inception,
Hmm.
it was developed over a year ago, and what's going to happen next year is in development right now. So next April, we'll
We'll
find
figure
out
out
what the
whatever they're
plan was.
gonna.
So it may be a bit of like, this was the plan. We got buy-in. The higher ups were like, oh yeah, we're going to do a MJ Venom movie, and, whatever the master plan was. And it sunk like a rock. And this little upstart side title of Ultimate Spider-Man, is kicking them in the balls, and it may be a little bit of frustration
And I'm
that,
sure there's a part of them that is frustrated, but like this is where Marvel Comics, and people can tell me, well, hey, we've recycled these ideas, we don't need more stories like that. Here's the thing,
hey, at
Marvel
this
knows.
point, at this point, a recycled story,
Well,
would
well,
probably be
here's
the best
here's
thing, the
here's
best
the
thing.
interesting part of how comics get received and what fans want and all that. I know there's people who are going to go, Reed, we don't need another comic book with the classic X-Men team. We have decades of that. We don't need another comic book with Peter married to MJ. We have decades of that. Here's the problem. That's what fans want, and sales show you that. And
Yeah,
here, the whole thing is, look, I could tell you if let's say you put me in charge of a property I love, like James Bond. And I'm like, you know what? We don't need another story where James Bond saves the world and gets the girl. Let's just have one where he's an accountant. Okay, it's different. It's stupid, and nobody wants that because that's not what you go to that for. And the thing
yeah,
is, Marvel themselves admit this because they keep teasing it. If you really, really want to not give me classic X-Men, don't use Cyclops anymore. Use your new little Tempest and Quentin Quire and all these characters and truly move on. You won't do it because you know you can't do it. So this whole, oh, it's just an IP farm. We're trying it. No, it's not. You guys know, hey, we need to tread a little bit on nostalgia. But for me, where I'm getting to with Marvel is it just feels like laziness. It feels like, you know what, I don't think I can do that, so I'll do something different. And then if you didn't like it, that's on you, not us, even though the sales are crashing. And we've seen this. X-Men. As much as I know X-Men had fans with the Krakoa era, you guys canceled all of those books and had to start a new initiative. If they were selling well, guess where they'd still freaking be? Krakoa. If Peter Parker was having a great renaissance with the Amazing Spider-Man, it wouldn't matter what they put in the Ultimate Spider-Man book. It wouldn't matter if he was married to MJ. It wouldn't matter what they're doing. It would be selling incredibly well. Instead, you're going to have your fifth or sixth Amazing Spider-Man #1 in the last 10 years, despite the fact that it went 400 something issues without ever having to do that originally. And the reason is they want to act like they know better, and they don't. And we see this with Titan Comics, right? Conan.
it's
We
a,
mention this
it's
all
a
the time.
tough pill
Why
to
is
swallow.
Conan great? Conan's great because what they did is they found somebody who really loves Robert E. Howard and really loves Conan and went, you know what? I'm just going to write stories that make Conan Conan. And we can do some different things like Battle of the Blackstone, where he has a little time traveling element and meets some other
Yeah,
characters, but it still feels consistent. What these guys do is instead of going, you know what, man, the character of Peter Parker, Stan and Steve Ditko and Jerry Conway and John Romita Sr. and all these great creators worked on it and built this character. My job is now not to redefine the character, not to build him differently, not to make my statement about what he is. It's just to go, you know what? People love this character. I'm going to tell tales with that character. Instead, they are dead set on like, no, I'm going to redefine Spider-Man for you. I'm going to break this and put it, and it's just guys, you've seen this fail over and over and over again, and you admit that it fails. Because if it truly was that you wanted to move on, you'd never have him get with Mary Jane anymore. You wouldn't tease that anymore. There'd be no need for the ultimate continuity where they're married because apparently it was such an irrelevant piece of Peter Parker that no one should want it, except for that's what fans want. And so the biggest thing with Marvel is if you really want to talk big, if you really want to, hey man, we're doing what we want, then ditch all of it. Ditch all the continuity. Bring us your new characters that are so much better. Get rid of all these old stories. And the thing is, like, I don't care if Peter Parker's married to Mary Jane or not, really. If you're telling good stories, that doesn't make or break Spider-Man. But quit dragging her around every 5 years to be like, oh, you thought we. If you really think you can create a better love interest, go for it. Commit to it. Actually do it. But you won't. And that's the biggest problem is you have these people now where they take things too personally because they're making decisions that fans don't like. And then they get all, well, that's your fault that you didn't like it. And again, we don't see this in any other business, right? Me and you watch a ton of sports. I root for the White Sox. The White Sox are a garbage fire most of the time. Most of my life, that franchise is in the trash. When the White Sox are bad, their owner, even though I don't like the owner of the White Sox very much, doesn't come out and go, You don't like the team on the field? Don't buy tickets. No, they do free promotions. They get bats. They get bobbleheads. We sorry, this is not what we wanted. And they may not take the steps to fix it, but they don't ever come out and be like, you know what, fans, it's your fault for wanting a baseball team that wins. Like that's the Bears are a garbage fire most of my life. I've never seen the Chicago Bears be like, you booing fans. You know what? If you're gonna boo, don't come to the games anymore. No, even they look and go, we appreciate your passion. We're sorry the product on the field isn't what you wanted. We're just as disappointed as you are. And I'm
Yeah.
sure when the fans are booing, they're probably like, man, screw these guys. Like, they're probably mad at the fans who are booing. But they're smart enough to know these are the paying customers. These are the
Yeah.
people who come in, they buy the tickets, they buy the jerseys, they buy the merch. We need them. And so even if it's just lip service, they know, hey, like, I'm not going to tell the fan booing, shut up, it's your fault. I'm actually going to go, you know what? We hear you, we understand. And that's all it would take in these scenarios.
There's got to be a little bit of self-realization and you got to you eat some humble pie once in a while and go, if if I was the director of that ship, I would be like, I'm so sorry that it didn't, these last few runs haven't lived up to the legacy of what you expect
Of
from
what you
Peter
expected.
Parker.
Well, and
And
even if,
we're going to work hard next year, and we've got some great ideas, and we're going to make it better than before.
no, but like,
And
and you could, we appreciate your passion. Thank you for
yes,
reading. We always love to hear from our customers. We're going to do everything we can. Instead, it's this dismissive, hey man, you ain't got to buy it. And,
hey,
and that's,
back in the old days, I mean, their jobs were on the line, and Stan, they all read the letters in DC and Marvel, and they directed their ship and course corrected accordingly. They did well for themselves. But this new model where, if we sell two copies or 200,000, we don't care because, Disney billions are footing the bill and it's just an idea farm. It's not going to go far.
well, and where I think Marvel is in a little bit of trouble. If you have this attitude, one, the attitude is so wrong in that, look, it's one thing if Tom Brevoort or whoever reflects these views, if it's your own thing that you created, you can have that opinion. It's not.
Oh, yeah.
This
That's
is
the
this
other
is
thing.
this is the work, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but no one knows who Tom Brevoort is because of what Tom Brevoort has done. They know him because he works for Marvel Comics. Now, his family, and that's not to say anything negative about the man. No one knows who I am, right? So I'm not anybody talking, but these people who have these names attached, why do we know their name? We know because you work for Spider Man. You work on the Spider Man title. You work for Marvel. The reason you are relevant in this sense that people want to read your Substack letter is not just because you're so charismatic and interesting. It's you work for Marvel Comics, a company that has a lot of passion, a lot of fans, right? If I go out and play a baseball game, no one cares because I'm just a guy playing baseball. But if you throw a White Sox uniform on me and make me play in front of a crowd, people care all of a sudden. And these
Yeah.
Marvel writers want to act like everything is just their own personal thing they're doing. You work for Marvel
Yeah.
Comics. You have legions of fans who care about these characters, care about the stories, who have been invested probably longer than you've been in the position. And if they're telling you what you're doing is not working, while you don't necessarily have to do everything they tell you to do, you can at least dang well go, you know what, man, we appreciate you telling us. We're going to try to do better. We got some great things cooked up for you. And
And
I think
don't
that's the part that's so frustrating is they don't seem to care that it's not their work. The reason we care about Spider-Man isn't what they're doing now. It's what was done in the past. It's the work of Stan and Steve and Jerry Conway and John
Yeah.
Romita Jr. and John Romita Sr. and all the greats that worked on that title and the story, Todd McFarlane, all the guys who did all those titles.
Yeah.
That's why we care.
Don't ever forget it's the house that Stan and Jack and Steve and
Steve.
John built, it's the house that they built. And, they created this stuff in less than idyllic circumstances. And if you would have took Stan and Jack and Steve and shown them, you know, set them up in the new offices at Marvel right now, they
Hmm.
would be blown away. Like every advantage, every little piece of equipment, every nuance that could make their job easier would be right there at their disposal. They'd been blown away because they didn't have that. Jack worked on an old drafting table for years.
And like where
You know,
Marvel might be in trouble, and this is where I don't like these new age characters. Like you point out, Jack and Stan, man, they were just spitballing it as they went, and same with Steve and all those guys. They had very little
yeah,
supplies. They had a brand they had to build. These
yeah,
guys get to coast on the creations of other people, and honestly, if you just produce interesting tales with these, it's where and the people right tries to bring this up, but it's why we love Conan so much. Because the coolest thing is like Jim Zub, the guy who writes it, and the artists and the people who do the letters page, they get it. You love Conan. We're just here to tell Conan stories. We're not here to break it, and we
yeah.
appreciate your passion for the character. Marvel doesn't seem to care, doesn't seem to get that. And I think Stan and Jack and these guys would walk in and be like, man, you have all of these things available and you can't produce a consistent comic. You have computer technology to help you with backgrounds and you can't get a monthly artist. You have all these characters to choose from and you can't put together stories. I think they'd be stunned and where I think Marvel's in some trouble overall. And
No.
I
And Jack would
Marvel
just be like, Jack was like, just, he was
pencils,
given the
man,
task.
pencils in a
He,
desk. I
and
mean,
he had to create everything because Marvel had nothing in 1960. They had no characters. They had nothing. And Jack and Steve and Stan just, cobbled together a few ideas and to get the ball rolling. They had nothing.
and I honestly think Marvel, and this is kind of, we'll close it out. I think Marvel's in a lot of trouble in that they're not winning anywhere right now. The comic book brand, the sales are down. And you know what? You can tell me we don't care about comics because we're all invested in the other. Okay, you try to do an Avengers game that went bankrupt to the studio that did that. So that's not a great sign. Your Spider-Man games are okay, but you decided to write Peter Parker out of those games, and the Miles game didn't nearly sell as well as Peter. They were supposed to do an interconnected universe of video games that didn't take off. Your movies, which was the crown jewel, they lose money all the time now. The Marvel movies are not billion-dollar box office sensations anymore. You are definitely in the Twilight nostalgia era of the Marvel movies, and it's like, where are you winning anywhere? You can't afford to be like, hey man, you don't want this stuff? Don't buy it anymore. And that's the thing is, I just on the movie front, we saw this where we started to see directors coming in being like, I'm not a comic book fan. I don't like comics. I don't care if it's comic accurate. The complaints that people have are irrelevant and they would try to switch the narrative when people would be disappointed, like with the Silver Surfer, where you had them coming out, oh, people are just mad it's not Norrin Rad because they're sexist. No, we're mad because it's the Silver Surfer and it's not Norrin Rad. Like, but they can't deal in good faith. And look, there are all kinds of bad faith arguments from people. There are people who live and exist to just critique and criticize this, and we're going to rip them apart no matter what. And so I understand there's bad arguments on both sides. But Marvel, you need wins, man. And you need to have just a monochrome of self-reflection to look and
And,
go, you know what, man, this isn't
and,
working.
and
Why don't we try this? Or
it all starts at the place you call an idea farm.
yep.
You gotta invest there. You gotta have a good director of the ship. You have to have a great editor, somebody like Stan Lee, or
They
you
need
gotta
someone. I mean, and that's
you
where I
gotta have
just
someone direct the ship.
I feel like
And
if they would Jeff John, there's enough guy, Jeff Johns, McFarlane, Mark Millar, someone, go to somebody who is a proven hit maker and just go, hey man, you run the ship from now on because what we're doing is not working. But we'll see. Let us know. What do you guys think below? What do you think about this? Do you think this is overblown? Do you think we're extrapolating too much out of this? Or do you think
mm-mm.
Marvel is truly having some attitude issues with their fans and that it's just really interesting to see them have all these really easy wins in front of them and go, you know what? We're not taking it. Again, we knew you as always the analogy of like a burger company. Marvel right now is a hamburger company going, we don't make hamburgers anymore. And if you don't like it, don't buy our products anymore. It's like, okay, that's a way to go. But let us know, as always, folks, what you guys think below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Whether you agree or disagree, we love seeing what you guys think. As always, God bless you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.